Hey, everybody. This week we are headed to Los Angeles, to Hollywood, to go behind the scenes with a veteran of the TV and film industry. Jordan Brady has been making commercials for more than 25 years. And before that, he was a stand-up comic, an actor, and a game show host. But it was the spot behind the camera that drew him in, and he's made more than 1,300 commercials along the way. Jordan is funny, playful, and clearly someone that loves what he does. But it didn't come without its share of hardships and challenges and creating opportunities. We talk about how AI is changing the TV industry and how he is still chasing the granddaddy of them all, a Super Bowl commercial. I think you will laugh and learn with this one as we sit down with Jordan Brady. Hey, a quick message, folks, before we get started. I've been listening to podcasts for years. I've listened to thousands of them, and many times I hear the host ask listeners to subscribe to the show or to provide a rating. Now, as a host myself, I know why. The subscription numbers and the ratings help the show to grow, exposing Pay Your Dues to more people and helping to bring in high-quality guests. If you like Pay Your Dues, I ask that you follow the show, perhaps provide a rating, and know that we appreciate your support. Now, let's get to it with our next guest. I'm looking forward to this conversation. There's a lot of things I want to ask you about, but the first thing is your title, because on your website and various places like LinkedIn, your title is Father, Filmmaker, Founder. And father is
Yes.
first. And that's a
Yes,
conscious
it
choice. Why'd you do that?
Because at the end of the day, I've had in business, I've had ups and downs. I've led a very privileged life from my perspective. I feel very fortunate to get to do what I do. But at the end of the day, being a dad is, that's 24/7. Even if my kids moved out, I'm thinking about them all the time. And I would put now grandfather, father,
Oh, yeah.
filmmaker, founder, but it's too long, the rule of threes. But I just love my kids. I love being a dad, and it's the thing I'm most proud of.
Yeah. I love that. And I figured that would be your response because based on putting that in your title, how does parenting shaped you and your career over the years? Have you thought about that? Or I mean, they kind of, you've been a dad for a long time now, so I don't know if you remember how that changes how you work or how you look at things, maybe from a creative standpoint. Did that give you material as a parent along the way for the projects you worked on?
Yeah. Well, I have a very distinct memory. When I was young, I was full time in the Jordan Brady business,
Hmm.
selling myself, whether I was a comedian or an actor, a filmmaker. They're all very me centric jobs, or at least that's what I thought they had to be.
Hmm.
And I remember uh, I got hired for a film. I'd made a film, an independent film, and then I got hired by someone else, which is always good. Like someone else calls you a director, you're a director.
Yeah.
And we shot nights in the summer, which are short. And I would come home at 6 a.m. exhausted as the
Yeah.
sun was coming up. And my sons were like 3 and 4 at the time. And they were just waking up to go to preschool. And I realized not only do they not comprehend what I've been doing the last 12 to 15 hours, but they shouldn't care.
Yeah.
It's about them, man. And I remembered like struggling to stay awake and my son wanting to read, over Cheerios.
Yeah.
Or getting them dressed, and could I drive and stay awake to get them to school, then go back to sleep for that night's shoot? And that like left an indelible mark that like, oh, it's about them, and the motivation to stay awake and to get home and see it was so wonderful.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I love that you put that in your title. I think that
Well,
says
thank
a
you.
lot about you. I think that's really cool. Okay. So Pay Your Dues is certainly about where you are in your career now, but it's also about like getting going. Right. And so Uh, this, I hope, is a conversation for people like me that are on the outside looking inside of Hollywood, LA, commercial production, and all that. So, if some of my questions are basic, forgive me, but I think it's a fascinating industry. And you grew up in Ohio, you end up in LA eventually, but take me through like the Ohio days. Were you always a creative kid, like making little movies and things like that? Or
No,
what was your makeup?
no, Greg, I wanted to be like Steve Martin or Flip Wilson, which
Yeah.
is a name some of the listeners will have to Google, right?
Yeah.
But these were stand-up comedians that also did sketches and bits, and then SCTV, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Those were huge in my life. In fact, SCTV, which got us Eugene Levy, John Candy, Martin Short, Catherine O'Hara, just so many great, uh, funny people, was huge. Like, and it was obscure. So in Ohio, there's no gang of friends. I didn't have a Super 8 camera like a lot of
Mhm.
filmmakers. We weren't that highfalutin. We were in a small town in Ohio.
Mhm.
And then I moved to Virginia when I was like right before middle school. And being somewhat funny was a way to make friends when you move, especially when you move in the middle of a school year. I don't
Yeah.
wish that on, talk about a parental mistake. And not that my parents did it on purpose or anything, but if you can move over the summer, I think it's a better
Yeah.
deal, right? Be the
Yeah.
new kid at the beginning of the year, not the new kid and the late kid.
Yeah.
And then, so I pursued the dream of comedy and I lived that life for many years. And that got me to Los Angeles,
Yeah. So,
being a comedian.
yeah.
And then as a comedian, you're kind of already an actor.
Right.
I wasn't very good, but I booked parts on sitcoms and things like that. And then fell in love behind the scenes,
Mhm.
which, when I coach filmmakers, uh, and one of the things I try to impart upon them, or I hate to say students because they're working professional
Mhm.
filmmakers,
Mhm.
but it's like, hey, sometimes in life you wake up and you want to do something different, and that's cool.
Mhm.
And that's what happened to me. I no longer wanted to be in front of the camera or on stage. I enjoy it, it's fun, but I was like, I've found this new thing.
Mhm.
And I shed that first skin, and I love seeing someone else shine in front of the camera.
Mhm. So, the stand-up I wanna ask you about, because that,
Yeah.
to most of us, that is frightening, right? The idea of getting up there. Do you remember the very first open mics, or what were you going to?
I had a short tenure at the University of Virginia. No, sorry, that's UVA, Virginia Polytechnical
Mhm.
Institute and State University,
Mhm.
Virginia Tech. And there were some open mic nights and coffee house nights, and I was like a duck to water. I wasn't really nervous, not nervous about getting up, nervous, would it work? Will this new bit work?
Mhm.
And there was a lot of blind ambition and delusional. I mean, I think I've been blessed with a lot of delusional thoughts, of
Yeah,
grandeur and a
right.
possibility of success.
Yes,
A little bit of delusion can fuel you.
sure.
Are my answers too long? Because you can go like
Not
this.
not at all. No. You, you've done more of this than me. It's good. This is the kind of conversation. I'll just keep going. If my questions get too long, let me know. Um, okay, so you're doing stand up. How do you pull the trigger on? Do you like move to LA without a job and like you're gonna go try and make it at the big time?
So I was talking to this guy, Dennis Miller, was a comedian and a brief sportscaster
Yeah, the Dennis
in
Miller.
in your world. Dennis
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
that guy. And I had opened for him on the road. And he took a liking to me and said, hey, hey, kid, you got some chops. Stand up. And I remember calling him. This is in the early mid 80s, 1980s. He's on SNL as the guy doing the Weekend Update.
Yeah.
And he had invited me up. I went to the show. I saw a taping, the whole thing. And he had helped a lot of young comedians. He was very generous and kind of a different cat than he ended up being. But whatever. I called him from like Boone, North Carolina, outside of Asheville. And I was doing a one-nighter at a Holiday Inn, comedy night.
Yeah.
Night spelled Knight, E. And a banner that was on the stage where the rock band would play. and I called him like, well, what do I do next? Like I'm working on the road. I'm doing these comedy clubs. I'm making, a few $100 a week and getting by. He goes, like, I don't know if you're ready for LA, babe. Why don't you go to Frisco? What do you want to be? King of the Appalachians? And so then I worked in Atlanta because that was on the circuit. You go from Boone to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman was very funny. Her name was Janine. And she said, I'm going to Europe this summer. Why don't you just take my apartment, rent my apartment in San Francisco? So I moved there sight unseen.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I sold my car. I had a car. I sold it, packed everything in a duffel bag, moved to San Francisco with no work, met people, picked up odd jobs doing stand-up, $80 a night, $25 a night, just cobbling together money, bought a motorcycle, day 2. And there was no Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. You had to buy an actual newspaper where people listed their used goods.
Yeah, right. I remember.
And you'd have to call them and then meet them and check. It was crazy. So I get this motorcycle. I'm driving around the Bay Area doing any gig I can for money. And Greg, you know what happened after about maybe 5-6 months?
What's that?
I said, it's time to go to Los Angeles. And San Francisco is one of the most beautiful cities in America.
Mm-hmm.
If not it's just so interesting and wonderful and seductive. And I thought, if I stay here, I will stay here forever.
Did it have a comedy scene, a pretty good comedy scene going? Yeah, it did.
Huge. Robin Williams was there.
Right.
And they were, all these wonderful creative people everywhere you went, and Little Boheme. And then there was like comedy was really in the first boom. It was a great place to be, but that delusion said, Jordan, you can make it in LA, baby.
Yeah. The Hollywood lights. So you head south, and how did you end up there? Did you end up in somebody's apartment? On the motorcycle. You took the motorcycle down. On I-5.
Took the motorcycle down I-5, a little bit on the 101.
Yeah, or the 101.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, so I knew another comedian that I'd worked with from the road. He was from Philly. He had moved out to LA. I stayed with him for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then there was an apartment in his complex, sort of the 90210 quintessential Hollywood apartment, 12 units and a green swimming pool.
Yeah.
And just started plugging away there.
So did you do the waiter bartender gig while you were doing some of that? Were you picking up other jobs outside of the entertainment industry, which is pretty common?
Greg, I never did that.
Really?
And I'll tell you what. I hope this is interesting to the listeners.
No, I think it's fascinating. I love the whole basis of starting this, Jordan, was to understand where people come from, like how these crossroads we take that we end up here, but how did you get there? And usually it's a pretty wild, a lot of twists and turns. So I think people are very interested in this kind of thing.
Okay, because I feel very blessed that I was at the right place at the right time with just enough talent and luck to seize opportunity.
Mhm.
So I'm in the comedy boom, riding the wave, right? Like I caught that comedy boom wave, and I lucky enough that I would work. I had enough work back east as like the middle act of a show.
Mhm.
Not quite the headliner, but I'm in my early 20s. I've moved to LA. And if I flew back and worked for 2 or 3 weeks in Atlanta or Houston, Dallas, I want to say there was a club in Portland, Oregon. Seattle had one called the Punchline, maybe,
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
right?
Yeah.
And then road gigs in Ohio and, one-nighters in Michigan. And I would just cobble together a couple of grand in a few weeks.
Mhm.
And I would go back to LA and then work at the Improv.
Mhm.
I didn't do the Comedy Store. Back then, you kinda had to make an allegiance with one or the other.
Mhm.
Now comics do them all the time. Go back and forth in the same night. And, yeah, I would perform in LA for $15, $18 a show,
Okay.
maybe drive the motorcycle an hour down to, Orange County, like to Irvine. You would get a couple $100 for the weekend
Yeah.
on the motorcycle. And then I got a big break by doing. There were a lot of comedy shows on cable television in the late '80s because if you had a fake brick wall and a
Yeah.
microphone, you could. The economics of stand-up comedy as programming were the best because here's a it was a lot of men, but men and women. They wrote, performed, directed their own bits, put them up for 5 to 7 minutes,
Mhm.
and you could shoot 30, 40 comedians in one night.
Mhm.
Now you've got 4 shows, 4
Yeah.
half-hour shows. So I was lucky enough I did those. And then, my biggest break, the first big break was, I did an MTV show like that, and they asked me to audition to host a game show. And I got the job, and I was flown to New York. We taped like 85 episodes over a summer. And all of a sudden I was on MTV. Now I was young and thin, pretty, with like a mullet down to here and wild bowler shirts or whatever they
Yeah.
were. And then that got me into college gigs, which could pay, $1,200, $1,500 a night.
Yeah.
So I jumped up in income. I was on television, which led to more television. And that's when I started going, oh, I like what the people on the other side of the camera are doing. This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mixed in some acting in there too outside of the hosting, right? So you at some point
I
you
was a
end up
horrible actor, Greg.
but somebody hired you. You were on some episode of Baywatch. I saw your
I did a
resume.
Baywatch. I had a
Yeah.
line there. I was on Who's the Boss with
Yeah.
Tony Danza. It was a big sitcom. I think the first one was, it wasn't Golden Girls. What was it? The show?
Oh, I
Empty
do
Nest.
remember Golden Girls, but the one
Yeah,
the
Empty Nest. It was a
yeah,
spinoff.
yes, yeah. So you did but the acting thing, it was either comedy was your first love, and
Yeah.
then so when you look behind the camera, I mean, where where did that transition happen? Did you get an opportunity to produce something, or how do you make that move?
Well, it's interesting. This show, Empty Nest, was a sitcom, and I got hired, and they said go to stage 5, and I go, you mean tomorrow, Thursday? They go, no, right now. And apparently they had written characters that morning and cast or recast or something. So another guy and I uh, go over to stage 5, and we're like these guys that work at a McDonald's. And we're like dumb teenagers.
Yeah,
And I'm 23, 24, but I looked young. And you always play a little younger.
yeah.
And I had a gig at the University of Irvine. So that's an hour away, more with traffic. And I'm like, holy cow, what do I do? I got to be like, I can't cancel the show. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
You know, I did it. There was another act, but I was the headliner and I was, okay, how do I get down there? So luckily, the director of the episode was a comedian named David Steinberg. He's a Canadian that would even host the Tonight Show when Johnny Carson
Oh,
was
wow.
ill. And he talks like this. David Steinberg, he's a great comedian. And I said, sir, I have a bit of a problem. I'm a comedian. I know you're a comedian. I'm doing this show tonight. And, you know, the stage manager and people are like, oh, like, we don't care about your show,
Yeah.
kid. Like, you
Yeah.
just got a part on a network sitcom. And it was a couple lines. And David Steinberg goes, so let me understand. You're the act. No one can take your place at the school. I said, that's right. They've billed me as this comedian. Like, he goes, you're good, huh? I go, well, I'm good enough that I can play the University of Irvine. He goes, get 2 chairs. Get Julia Duffy out here and Jan Hooks, I think was the other act. Get them out here and bring the other boy. Now run the lines. And we ran the lines. I had like 2 or 3 lines. And he goes, that's great. We'll do that Friday. Go do your gig.
Oh, he was looking out for you.
And he understood, and he was so nice about it. And I raced out and made the show and then came back the next day and we filmed the sitcom.
Yeah, that's great. And you remember that. You remember that.
Oh, I remember how generous and nice he was to help me out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So what the first commercial, what was that? What was that opportunity like for you to produce something?
Oh my gosh. So Greg, I was raising money. Well, before commercials, I had relationships at MTV after the game show, and I did some hosting stints at Comedy Central, and I was hosting a show called Short Attention Span Theater, famously started by Jon Stewart. And when Jon Stewart left, they auditioned probably a dozen comedians. I did a month, stint behind a desk reading a teleprompter. And then when I traveled, I had said to the producer, hey, I'm shooting stuff on the road. When I go on the road, I take this camera, I interview people on the street, and I'm shooting little shorts. I can do some promos for you. I don't want any money. So they gave me a box of tapes, and I would do some promos like, hey, I'm in Phoenix. It's humidity hell, and here's what's coming up tonight on Comedy Central. They were just little like field pieces. I would ship the tapes back. And so I started getting that and pitching and writing ad campaigns for Comedy Central, doing these little short, what they called interstitial bits, like 1 or 2 minute bits that cable stations had. Like it was like a profile on the first one. Oh my gosh. I think it was the first or second one that I did a profile on a comedian. They said, there's this guy, he's like 22 years old, out of DC, and he performs on the street and in clubs. We think he's going to be a big thing. And I met him and I'm like, oh my gosh, Dave Chappelle.
Wow.
And it was one of the first things, if not the first thing he ever filmed.
Wow.
And we just follow him around on the street, and we edited a cool piece about him doing his comedy with an interview, like a little profile piece. So I had a series of those. And then I was raising money years later for a movie, for a feature film I had written that I wanted to make. Somewhere along the line, you realize, oh, I got to write it. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And this company goes, yeah, we're not gonna invest in your movie, but we think that your style would be good for this commercial. would you like to do a commercial? I said, yeah. I didn't know anything I was doing. They said, well, okay, you're going to pitch to come back tomorrow. You'll pitch the company. It was WD-40, which we all have an
Mhm.
old can around. They should put an expiration date on WD-40
Yeah,
because you'd be forced to buy more.
right. Yeah, for
Because
years.
I got like a 12-year-old can in the garage. So I get the commercial. I don't know what I'm doing. Turns out fun, great. I cast a comedian I had known to be in it. And then I just got lucky working, doing more opportunities fell into my lap.
So a couple of things there, Jordan. What you said with MTV, you said you were already out shooting stuff on the street, right? And then that led to you shooting things for them. Why were you doing that already? Was it just you had this you were you looking for material to make a film, or was it just a creative bug in you that you were just out there so you wanted to do something with it? What, because I feel like that led to, this journey.
Greg, you're so intuitive. That's such a so when I'm doing these colleges and I got to perform, and maybe you're opening for a reggae band. By the way, reggae bands always late.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to keep the sun. Is the sun
No,
okay? Because
you look good. Yeah, we're not worried about sunshine here, just in LA. See, LA,
okay.
everything's brighter in LA. That's the thing.
Oh, I get a kick off my stainless steel
Again,
grill this
yeah,
time of night that comes right in.
it
Okay,
adds
so
to the ambiance.
when I was on the road doing comedy clubs, pre colleges, there was a fork in the road during the daytime. And that was sleep in, smoke weed and watch old reruns
Mhm.
and do 1 hour of work at night, or maybe get up and go out and see the town and maybe get a video camera and shoot things and learn to edit little things together. So I chose the latter.
Yeah.
Then when I got to colleges, I realized it would be so fun to walk around campus during the day, edit really quickly, and then at night show me talking to the security guard at the West Gate, and the crowd would go crazy.
It's part of your act. It's part
It's
of your
part of the
yeah.
act.
Yeah.
And it was personalized entertainment,
Yeah.
for that school.
Yeah.
So if you're you know, at Muncie, right, in Ball State, in Muncie, Indiana, and you go to Bear's Place Pizza and you order the whatever and ask a few fun, you just have to be
Yeah.
mildly funny.
Yeah.
And I always loved, David Letterman and before that, even Jack Parr would be on the
Mhm.
street or,
Mhm.
just funny bits and just it's really the people that are the stars. And I would edit those together and show them at the college. So by the time I had done the MTV show, I had a little bit of experience just sort of directing, producing, kind of I would hire a kid at the school. Like, I'll give you $100 if you just hold this camera. You don't have
Yeah.
to do anything.
Yeah.
I'll hit the red button. You just point it at
Yeah.
the guy that I'm talking to or the lunch lady, and I'll do the rest.
So you're getting material, and that plays into this evolution of your career. You mentioned making a film and writing a
Mhm.
film, and I know commercial has been a big part of your career, but there was a time where filmmaking was the focus, right? Was that during the early commercial directing, or was that before?
It was kinda simultaneously like a two-headed dragon, and then one head bit the other one off.
Mhm. Was that
Um,
a hard decision to I mean, is that you're at a crossroads there?
well, so I made an indie film that I wrote, directed, we got distribution, we got it on television, a handful of theaters, DVD was coming around, like, I'm good at catching some of those waves, right?
Mhm.
Um, and So I made this independent film. It's called Dill Scallion,
Mhm,
and Roger Ebert called it the country music Spinal Tap.
mhm.
And I have it on Vimeo for $5 the last, I don't know, 5 or 7 years. And every year, I just did this. Every year, I take the lifetime earnings of the film, double it, and write a check to St. Jude's.
Oh, that's cool.
And I told the actors, like, I'm not going to, like, you can sue me. I told people that have some of the music in the film, like, you can sue me. I'm not making any money. It's all going to St. Jude's. And I asked some of the actors beforehand, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Because if I want to get it on Netflix, it opens up a whole can of worms.
Mhm.
Mostly some of the music, like a couple of songs I can't afford.
Right,
And I don't want to do open heart surgery on a film to make a
right,
couple grand.
right.
So I would rather put it out there and give it to charity. So, but I digress. So I make this Dill Scallion. I get hired for another movie. Then I get hired for this Miramax movie. Then I make another one, an independent one. So like 4 films in about 5 years, which is insane.
Yeah.
And all the while I'm doing Burger King commercial here, Kia commercial there, some regional casino commercial. And the movies, one's a critical flop. The other one didn't really take off, just kind of whatever. I mean, I'll get a check for $38 every quarter,
Mhm.
but it didn't hit the way I wanted it to hit. And I was admittedly diffusing my focus between, like, I remember I was in post-production on this Miramax movie, and the studio called and they're like, hey, we heard you're not in the edit. I'm like, yeah, I took off a week because the editors, I don't need to watch the editor edit. And where are you? I'm on a golf course in Vancouver doing a Burger King campaign. And I'm making, about the same amount of money in 4 weeks with prep and post on the commercials as a year and a half of my life with this movie. So in hindsight, shoulda, coulda, woulda, Greg. Maybe had I really just buckled down and made the films the best they could be, I'd be in a different, have a different career path.
Mm.
But after doing those movies back to back to back to back, and commercials really taking off, like I was shooting a Popeye's chicken campaign for the third round when one of my movies came out, and the chicken people were much nicer to deal with.
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean,
Yeah,
it was
that's that was
just
gonna be one of my questions. I mean, it's because and I've heard you talk about this on your podcast, is like, there's a perception thing, right? Like a major motion filmmaker or a commercial maker, right? I mean, is there some ego involved in whether one or the other? But maybe one pays more and one might be a little easier to deal with than these other. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Was it ever? Did you ever second guess as the further you got into commercial directing? Do you ever second guess whether that was the right path to take?
no, no. I don't. I mean, I look at it somewhat analytically, but it's not a shoulda, coulda, woulda. I remember telling my agent at the time, "Hey, you don't have to drop me, but you might want to drop me." What do
Mhm.
you mean? Well, I don't want to do Freaky Friday 3. I don't want to go pitch on it. I don't want to I don't want to commit my life to it. There was one movie that I did meet. I think it was like Stuart Little 2 or 3. And they said, this is like 2.5, 3 years of your life. And I was like, yeah, but it's really cool. Like a mouse drives around a car. And then that wasn't even in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I was even a candidate, other than I dealt with some big ego actors and they thought, well, we'll handle the special effects. But I just remember telling the agent, I'm going to stick with commercials for 2 years. And 2 years turned into 22 years.
How do you think the comedy background that you had plays into your directing,
Timing.
even to this day?
Timing.
It's still still a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah, comedy, being a not so great actor really helped me. When I see great talent, I recognize it, right? Like, no,
Yeah,
having been on that
sure.
side of the camera.
Yes, yes.
Um, I had so many wonderful women and men teach me some of the technical stuff, and I'm still not that technical. Like, I call my son is a fantastic cinematographer, and I have
Mhm.
to ask him, like, "Explain f-stop again? What does that
Yeah,
mean?"
yeah.
So I had a lot of people help me, and with comedy, you have to know the joke, you have to know what's funny to you, and there's kind of a rhythm to comedy that I think translates from even stand up to telling a 30-second story.
Mhm. So some of those stories, I mean, how often are you involved in the writing of a commercial? Because really, you're directing someone else's vision, right? So you
Yeah.
have to bring it to life.
Yeah, it's a weird mix. That's a great question. A lot of people think like, "Hey, here's one. You should sell this to Bud Light. This would be funny." My friends and I joke about this all the time. "You should make a commercial about this."
Yeah.
And I explained, well, Bud Light has an advertising agency that they pay and they pitch them 30 ideas. And out of that, they get 10. And of the 10, they make four. And then I compete against a bunch of other directors to make one of the four.
Mhm.
So the way you get the gig as a commercial director is your body of work, what we call your reel, has to resonate with the ad agency. And even they don't have the power these days. They show their client and say, pick, we love them all.
Right.
They used to have a take and go, we're recommending Greg. He's got the best point of view. So really, I'm in the point of view business, and I pitch my take on the script. So it is someone else's vision, like a team at an agency has a vision. And then I describe it as being sort of the wet nurse. I know how to pull it off technically. I know
Mhm.
how to pull it off producerally, like for the budget. And then hopefully the most important thing is my taste aligns with their taste.
And then do some I'm assuming some commercials or clients give you more leash than others, just like you're probably doing with
Yeah.
your actors, right? I mean, are you allowing the actors to modify slightly as you're making these pieces?
Well, I'm fortunate enough that a lot of my clients and agency people that hire me give me free reign or will ask for opinions on the script, alternate lines of dialogue. And then I throw those to the actors. I want the actors to ad lib and try stuff, but it all has to stay within the framework of the script that's been vetted. And like even categorically, uh, medical, pharmaceutical commercials
Mhm.
have very little rope.
Right.
It's verbatim, and the shots are signed off on. The framing, everything is
Yeah.
execution by the time you've prepped it. Whereas some of the comedy stuff, like my dear late friend Pat Finn starred in these Toyota commercials
Mhm.
we just did our 20th year.
Mhm.
And one of the best improvisers to come out of Second City, we would leave we, the agency, and I would leave the scripts shorter than normal, knowing he would do his thing.
Mhm.
And that's where as a director, you're really uh, more of an event planner. I have my point of view on things. I have my comedy bits, but you're going to make this guy shine. You're going to create an area where he's just going to flourish, and he would just take the script and run with it.
You've mentioned Pat in the last few weeks since his passing because you guys were very close, and so you've really done some nice tributes to him. I wonder
Thank
what
you.
is that? Um, when you create something together, right? And it's funny. And what is that moment like? You know, because you keep going back to it. I'm sure it's almost like a drug. Like when he's nailing some line or im doing some improv on a line in a commercial. What is that feeling like that pulls you back in to wanna keep creating that?
Yeah, it's a drug. It just feels so good, and, I never understood how people would yell, like, directors and producers and assistant directors, that they're the ones that kinda run the set for
Mm,
you. You know, people yelling, "We gotta yeah," like, we're making comedy. So when you see someone like Pat bring it to life, there was a clip I posted from a few years ago from a Toyota commercial we did, where he bought a new truck, so we dressed him like a cowboy with the checkered shirt, the Wrangler jeans, cowboy boots, and at the last minute, I was like, "Let's give him spurs, and we'll put the sound of spurs in it." And so he did like 4 or 5 takes in a row, and each progressively had a little more cowboy swagger in it, to the point where the last one looked like he had hip dysplasia,
I saw
like he was a Labrador, and that one didn't make it. It was too far, but just when he walked by the camera and you call cut and everyone just burst out
yeah,
laughing, and he knows. He's like, "Look, I know." You don't have to say anything. He knows he pushed it that far to make the crew laugh and to make us laugh. But the third take is the winner, and it makes it in the commercial, and people comment like, "Oh, I like the little herbs and spices of the spurs, but the way that guy walked had me laughing out loud."
yeah, yeah, I saw that post and the when the crew starts off, you know, the last one and the crew just loses it, you know, and it made me think that's why I asked you that question, like, that's what you're doing for a living, that's your career, you know, and it's not every day, but those moments, you know, must, really be fulfilling.
It's so fun. What there was a Kaiser Permanente commercial that we did in Seattle, and we shot it on a stage. And there's a pod of orca
Mhm,
that are famous in Seattle.
mhm,
And so this was for like that Northwest Kaiser Permanente Thrive, I think it is. So it's like a regional Kaiser Permanente. And the woman that's talking to camera about her health care, and she's got a baby on the way, she's making the analogy that like my doctor, knowing them is like how I know the J pod,
yeah,
which is
the
a
J-Pod.
famous like, the J pod. And knowing like, well, we can't really shoot the J pod. We can't shoot the orca. Like they're unreliable. They don't show up on time. They have a rider that's
Yeah,
an arm's length long. So my whole pitch was, well, if we do it on a sound stage, we can use when we cut to the J pod, like she's looking, we'll use little miniature ceramic, like something you'd buy at a gift shop
yeah, down by Pike
along
Place
the
Market or something,
yes.
right? Yeah.
So I got them off of Etsy, and I like got my drill and I put a chopstick in the belly so I could make it like a puppet. And then my daughter had a stainless steel straw, so you don't have to reuse plastic
Mhm,
straws.
mhm.
And I go, oh, well, if I put that through, I can actually get a mouthful of water and make a blowhole and make it spit out water. And I'm testing it. And then I go up to Seattle and I'm showing the production designer and the art department people. And they're like, you do it. So I'm underneath the camera with this puppeted Etsy orca with my daughter's straw spitting water out of blowhole. And it's in the commercial. And so I'm like, this is what I get to do. I'm just like, I feel so lucky.
Ah, that's great. You know, the funny thing is we haven't even addressed this, but this is self-taught, right? You didn't go to film school, and it seems like that's I don't know, what is the percentage of people in your industry that went to film school or found their way into it like you did?
I don't have the data.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
I'm saddened that I can't deliver the data, Greg,
sure, sure.
but I think there's a lot of I'm probably on the older side for self-taught. I mean,
Right.
because I started pre-YouTube, so I read a lot of books and I watched Michel Gondry, who is like this French genius of a filmmaker. You would know a lot of his music videos, like For the White Stripes and things like that. But
Mhm.
Eternal Sunshine, Mind of the Spotless, Jim Carrey.
Okay, yeah.
You made that movie.
Mhm.
And there were these DVDs, and then behind the scenes DVDs I always watched, and pre DVDs I would just dissect. I mean, if you look at Charlie Chaplin movies, they're all the same special effects as people do on TikTok.
Really?
So there's a lot of information out there. If I were a director right now, or an aspiring filmmaker,
Mhm.
I would consider film school for the relationships. Like, I want to say Ryan Coogler, who, has Sinners out now and did Black
Mhm.
Panther and
Mm.
has worked with some of the same people from film school. Ryan Johnson, who did our favorite Star Wars and Knives Out, has
Mhm.
worked with the same crew from film school. So those relationships you get at film school universities are something I wish I had.
Yeah.
I built them over time
Yeah.
by working. But if you don't want to be a few $100,000 in debt,
Mhm.
I think the same education is available on YouTube by studying courses. I have courses at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com
Mhm.
that are like relatively peanuts. A couple $100, you can take hours of classes from me and then get on the phone when you're done. We'll talk about what you want to do. That's a blatant pitch, but that's the nature of me on podcast.
Yeah.
So I slid that in.
Yeah.
Um, I look, I bought a camera in my 20s, a video camera, and would hit record and pause off of another tape player. Like, that's how I edited.
Sure.
And a lot of people did that, you know?
But now everybody has I mean, there's so the point of entry is relatively low as far as equipment and resources, right?
It's this.
Yeah. That's it.
It's a
That's your
crack.
camera.
It's a cracked iPhone.
Yeah. It is amazing. It is amazing. That's a good way to summarize it because the film school it is about relationships, but it doesn't have to be the only thing. And that's why I did want to ask you about the film school or the commercial classes that you teach. Who is that for? Who do you see? Because you mentioned you don't call them students. You said before because they're people working in the industry for the most part, and they're trying to work on their craft. Or what are you finding the need out there?
That in hindsight, film school may have been a bad moniker because it isn't for people coming out of high school that want to be directors. It can help them, but I would hope you had a little more experience under your belt. So,
Mhm.
for instance, I don't know when the podcast comes out, but January 24th, I'm doing an in-person boot camp. I
Mhm.
take 10 filmmakers. We're in a classroom all day. There's no cameras or lights to adjust or film to develop. It's all theory, how to manage your career, how to, work with sales people to sell your your talents, how to run the set, how to have a point of view, and how to communicate. The key is to have a point of view and be able to communicate that to people that need you to be a filmmaker for them.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot of wonderful people with crazy ideas. But if you can't articulate it on a Zoom call, it's unlikely you'll win the job. So my filmmakers are women and men between their early 20s and mid 50s sometimes. People
Mhm.
that will go, well, I've been a videographer, and I've been doing weddings or local plumber commercials, which there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
And I want to get to another level where I'm working for the agency here in Kansas City. I'm going to fly and take Jordan's boot camp. And the online classes touch on that too. Like I have a kind of an innovative course, if I do say so myself, Greg,
Mhm. Sure.
commercial directing shadow online, where my son Ben was with me, who he's grown up on set. And like I said, he's a fantastic cinematographer. So he's got a small camera and he's following me as close as you can invade another person's personal space while I'm talking to the cinematographer and the wardrobe and the script supervisor and the gaffer. And then we go over and I direct the actors and he's right there. And then we go to the video village, we call it, where the client and the ad agency is.
Mhm.
So it's that 3-ring circus of the crew, the cast, and the client. And he's literally right there. And I'm looking over my shoulder going, okay, I just told the actor to say this. When we walk over there, they're not going to understand it, but I'm going to explain it to them. Like
Mhm.
it's as raw inside behind the curtain as you can get, even more than being on set. Like I get a lot of people, filmmakers, 30s and in their 30s and 40s, been doing it a dozen years. Can I come shadow you on set? And I love having someone shadow me.
Mhm.
But there are times when it's sensitive and we're an hour behind and the actors flubbing their lines up where I can't say, hey, come watch me. Hey, tag
Right.
along. Like,
Right.
hey, I
They're
got to do my,
standing over watching
you're watching from 20
a
feet away.
distance. Yes.
So I made this course and it's funny because it's hard to, it's like, how do I say it? It's the course that people don't know that they need to know about.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I don't push it. I haven't marketed it in a few years heavily, um, because you have to in life. You got so many hours in the day. But when
Mhm.
I can talk about it, or someone asks me, "Can I shadow you?" I say, "Take this course, and if you really dig it, and then you want to shadow me in real life, I'll pay you to shadow me, and you'll get your money back."
Hmm. I
Which
wonder
is more.
what made you wanna create it? I mean, is it because you were getting so many requests, or and the other classes are a little bit different because 'cause they're in person, so you're
Mhm.
committing time to do that? Is it because you wanna give back, or you saw a need based on people requesting, uh, knowledge from you? What made you wanna create these elements?
Well, the first thing is I've taken seminars since I moved to LA. I took a producing seminar, and a guy had 8 people up to his house in the Hollywood Hills,
Mhm.
hanging out by the pool, and he just gave us the keys to the kingdom. And I was like, this is really cool. And then I took a Wes Craven seminar. He was one of the best horror directors, Halloween,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and it's like, okay, I don't like horror. It's not my thing, but I was like, I bet I could learn from this guy. He's a master. So then I thought, well, I had a lot of people help me and I had a lot of people not help me, but I want to give back. And then truthfully, the online classes came out of the pandemic
Oh, yeah.
because I had to cancel. I was like a lot of people, the March, it was like March 13th or whatever that was. And I
Mhm.
had a boot camp in April and I go, well, we'll push it 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then that turned into, 3 years.
Yes.
So I cannibalized what I could from an in-person boot camp I had been doing for 5 years and put it online. And the response was so overwhelming that I did the shadow course. So I have a shadow course, a master class, um, how to pitch, one about spec spots, I think is still there. And some are like really high production value master classes. And I think the one of them is like a Zoom presentation that, you were either there or you buy.
Yeah.
And I'm due for some new courses, but I tell you the fun thing, Greg, last year, a filmmaker who came up through my film school, who's a big time director, commercial director, and AI expert now, mixing AI with live action, really stylish, Christina Archer. She did a course called How to Pitch, and we hosted on our film school site. And another director, Kevin O'Brien, came up through the film school, my boot camp and retreat. He is a wizard shooting on the electronic wall, the LED wall, like The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
So he's putting out a course that'll be on my platform. And that's been rewarding to see other people inspired to give back and help people at a reasonable price. Like it's a thimble compared, like you couldn't learn. I don't want to speak in absolutes, but I cannot name a film school, I'm sure there is, that is current and up to date on the techniques that are changing every 6 months on
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
around the country, right? Around the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So like if you're teaching the LED wall, at most you're a year behind at the most avant-garde university.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Kevin's course is going to be up to the minute and he'll update it every 6 months. I update my courses with new behind the scenes just to have a place for it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to how when you were out with your camera, right, going to college campuses, you were choosing to do something. You didn't know if it was going to pay off necessarily, but you were choosing to do something on your craft to, you know, get better, invest in yourself rather than, smoke pot and watch reruns all day until your show came on. And I just think whether it's, filmmaking or real estate, whatever your thing might be, if you're working on your craft, there's a benefit that can we grow out of that. And I think that's what those tools are so good for, that people can grow whether they're in the industry or just trying to break in, it seems like.
Absolutely. That's so well put. It's not just filmmaking. I mean, I'm hoping that the listeners and do people watch on YouTube? I could never understand
Yeah, I
watching a
put it out
podcast.
there. I put it out
I
there.
know you do.
I think you're going to break all the records, all the pay your dues records. So I'll let you know how the
No,
numbers go.
I watched, I want to say Alex Stein was recently. Was
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
most
yeah,
recent?
yeah. Alan Stein. Yes,
Alan
yeah.
Stein. Sorry, Alan. I loved it. And I found myself watching. I'm going, maybe I'm converting. But before that, I'm like, who watches a
I do
podcast?
that. I do all my podcasts through audio, like, running, walking the dog, driving.
Same.
But a lot of people watch on the YouTube. So
What speed
yes,
do you listen to podcasts on?
1.2 or 1.3.
Yeah. After
Yeah.
that, it gives me the dizzies.
Yeah, it's a little too much, but yeah,
It's like,
yeah. But I definitely speed it up.
Yeah, 1.2. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
No, you're right. Look, in real estate, I love on Instagram getting realtors videos and how they've used AI.
Mm,
Like even me shopping around looking on Zillow, I see a room furnished and it's so good. And then the next picture, it's without the furniture,
right.
or maybe
Yeah,
there's an AI thing. I'm like, that's cool. And the drone,
yeah,
realtors using the drones
yeah.
and, or just storytelling. But yeah, and then I go back to like leaving stand up to go to filmmaking, which isn't a big stretch, but now I take as many times as I can take a client or ad agency people, or my wife and I will take and treat everybody to a big comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Maron's a podcaster, well,
Mm-hmm.
retired podcaster,
Yeah.
one of the juggernauts, and we're a similar vintage of
Mm-hmm.
stand up. And I took people to see him, and this guy Dana Gould is a friend. I take people and they look at me and they go, "You're cured. You don't have the disease of being a comedian anymore." I'm like, "No, I can sit in the audience and enjoy what you do so much better."
Mm-hmm.
Um, Point being, back to your thing, like if you don't enjoy something, then stop doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
don't
yeah.
don't fall on a sword because you did it for years.
You brought up AI, which I definitely wanted to ask you about. And, from the outside looking in, I would say the filmmaking industry and the commercial making, it's not going to need Jordan anymore or Jordan's son anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
what are the conversations you and your peers have on that?
Yeah, before thinking about doing what I think is like the 28th in-person boot camp, January 24th here in Los Angeles, 3 seats left, Greg.
Okay.
Limit 10. Um, I had the existential conversation with myself. I don't want to teach people they can make a living doing what I do if that living and that livelihood is no longer a
Right.
possibility,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I need to be honest with myself. I need to be honest with the filmmakers. And the truth is, I am directing a commercial right now that is 100% AI. I'm directing a commercial which is having a point of view and communicating to someone that's prompting, and I did some prompting myself, to make a commercial out of AI that won't look like what people are calling slop, AI slop.
Mhm. Mhm.
I have used it the last year a handful of times, certainly in prep, to communicate an idea
Mhm.
that we then go execute with real people, but also a couple of times recently to remove the extension cord that everyone was worried about. Should we put tape over it and paint it? I'm like, no, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need a big effects person to paint it. I can do it with a. We had signs. We were going to print probably, let's say, $1,500 worth of placards for a spokesperson to hold up with colored big bold words on it. And we wanted multiple versions. And having dabbled enough and been like just doing AI for fun and for practice and to learn the craft, I said, no, she shall hold blank placards
Mhm.
and I'll put the words on in about 7 minutes. And so the downside is the printer, the VFX artist,
Right.
there are ancillary casualties
Yes.
because of AI.
Yeah.
And yet there's new jobs like the guy that's prompting and creating some of the images for one of the spots I'm doing now was an editor who has now been elevated and I'm assuming a pay increase because of his new skill.
Mhm.
I think there's always going to be a need for people to connect and people to, so like at the workshop that I'm doing, you have to have a point of view and you have to communicate. And if someone says, do we need it to be AI? You don't have to be the best prompter in the world, just like I don't have to be the best cinematographer.
Mhm.
I will choose a partner in a cinematographer. It's often my son. I have a dozen different people I've worked with for 25 years that I look like arrows in a quiver. Who is the right personality for the job? Who has the right
Mhm.
eye? And sometimes it's going to change with AI, but I don't think it's going to go fully away, just like CG. People didn't make it go away. Animation's its own thing. AI, but my recipe as we sit here today is sprinkling in the AI into the live action.
Yeah. Sprinkling it in, learning about it, investing in, I think knowledge is power. So probably whatever your industry is, knowing AI is going to have an effect, and then educating yourself about it, like you're talking about doing, I think is probably a key part
The
of
th-
that.
yeah, the threat to me as a company owner and director of commercials, and my company produces commercials,
Mhm.
is that the AI has allowed the ad agency to bypass a commercial production company.
Right.
And instead of Jordan and Greg putting a team together, they go, Sally, Johnny, bring your laptops. You're going to
Yeah.
prompt a new commercial.
Right.
And they've got these in-house people who are extremely creative. And from their perspective, like, wow, the control they have at pennies compared
Yeah.
to what it takes to, produce a
Mhm.
commercial.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, especially in your bigger industry, film and all that. And I know there's been a lot of talk on that. Is the so is the Super Bowl commercial? Is that like the pinnacle of commercial making, or is it? I don't know.
That's
How
the
do you
Oscar.
look at it?
Yeah. The
That's
Super Bowl, the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl of commercials.
yeah, yeah.
I was lucky enough, I interviewed this director, Brian Buckley, who's known as the king of the Super Bowl. And
Mm,
I think he's up to like 65 Super Bowl
mm,
commercials.
mhm.
And I had a Bud Light commercial that was for 48 hours was going to the Super Bowl. And then they had like 8 directors make 8 different
Oh,
commercials.
nice.
And I was the winner. And then 48 hours later, someone else, they decided to go with that one. And I've had numerous regional commercials. Like if you were in Iowa and you saw Shields department store, you would think it was the biggest Super Bowl commercial, or Toyota in
Yeah,
the Phoenix area. Oh, that was a Super Bowl. But that little bird named Integrity says, Jordan, that's your white whale.
yeah.
You've got to get that one.
Still chasing it.
Still chasing it
Yeah,
delusionally.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's gotten you a long ways. That delusion, right?
I'm 61 years old. Been doing this for so long. I've come so close, and I'll never give up.
Good,
I love
good.
it. Do you
That's
have
great.
something like that? Do you have any itch that needs to be scratched?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've worked in real estate, I've worked in media. This is kind of an offshoot of some of those experiences.
A
So,
Webby. Maybe
yeah,
you want to get a Webby.
yeah, maybe if I knock Joe Rogan off his perch here, maybe that's it. Um, I wanted finally ask you, when you look back at your career, and there's so many great stories. I love these. Is there a moment that resonates with you the most? And maybe it was something with Pat, like you talked about, but is it that encapsulates what this industry has meant to you over all these years?
There was a recent I'll give you 2 quick answers. There was a recent campaign with, a comedian, Eliza Schlesinger, who's in a documentary I made about comedians.
Mm,
I don't keep in touch, but she's blown up. In fact, Nikki Glaser
mhm,
was in this first documentary called I Am Comic. And I made the documentary because when YouTube came along, people would go, I'd be on set shooting a commercial, and they would go, "Hey, you were a comedian. We just found your clip." And I had clips of me young and pretty doing
mhm,
comedy on, the Comedy Central YouTube channel or MTV. I go, you know what? I'll just make a documentary and that'll answer the question, what was it like to be a comedian? Years later, like a few months ago, Eliza Schlesinger is in this campaign for a Jeep minivan. I think it's a Jeep.
mhm.
And I did not direct it, but I really liked the commercial. And a couple people texted me going, you did this, right? Like it has your voice all over it. And oddly, Greg, that was very fulfilling.
Mhm.
Not as much as getting the gig and doing
Sure,
it,
sure.
but that I had a point of view and a sense of humor that is brand brandable or recognizable to people, that they would even mistake someone's spot for my brand of humor.
Mhm,
And more importantly than that was one time an owner of a big commercial production company that would be considered like a rival texted me and said, I saw this commercial. Please tell me you directed it. And I said, yes, I did.
mm,
And that felt really good, that even if it's within this small niche of a industry called commercial directing that people go, oh, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And then last month, being on set with Pat Finn, early December, knowing that he had been through chemotherapy, that he was in remission from cancer,
Mm-hmm.
was on his way. He was done with chemo, pre-shoot by however many weeks, doing physical therapy to get in shape for the shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the 20-year anniversary for this Toyota campaign, which is unheard of. I don't even know if Flo from Progressive has been doing it 20 years. I think we're like 3 years older than her
Yeah.
campaign. And we had signs and T-shirts, Pat TV, 20
Mm-hmm.
years. Everybody was celebrating. Some of the crew's been there for 15 years, the agency for the 20 years. And it was meant to be this celebration. And it was. And then it was noticeable by the end of day 2 that, okay, his health is like literally in the 3 days prior to the shoot had taken a turn.
Mm-hmm.
So this man willed this shoot to happen. And he said to me, this is a big job for the crew. That he was so selfless that he's like, despite his health, was going, we have to do the shoot. The show must go on,
Mm-hmm.
And so being there with his kids and his lovely wife on set, my wife, who had not worked on the campaign for years, came back to work on it to be with Pat.
Mm-hmm.
My son there helping him move around and capturing it all. We had watched our kids grow up, and I just thought, wow, this is really something. This is something really special that I got to share with this family, the Finn family, like
Mm-hmm.
Pat and his kids and his lovely wife, but also all the filmmakers. Like when we called wrap, it was just the whole crew came around applauding
Mm-hmm.
that he pulled this off. And for us,
Yeah. What a moment.
yeah,
Well, it's clear you cared about Pat, care about his family, but it's clear you care about your industry, those people you work with. And I think we could all be so lucky to care about what we do, what we create, and to have fun along the way. And it didn't happen by happenstance. Like you made choices along the way to continue to put yourself out there. First of all, as a stand-up comic, right, which not everybody would do, and to make these choices and to take that trip to San Francisco on the motorcycle. I think that says a lot about, people look at where you are now, Jordan, right? This longtime director in LA, Hollywood, but it was it was steps along the way. And it looks like you've had fun along the way. And I just want to say I recognize and appreciate that.
wow, Greg, way to land the plane, baby. I mean, you just wrapped it all up. That was beautiful. Well, thank you for those kind
Mhm.
words. It's humbling, and you brought up real estate, and I know you work in real estate. If I go to an open house, there's a vibe and the smell of cookies, and it's laid out cool, and maybe there's some lo-fi beats playing. That's because someone made a decision to have this be fun.
Yeah.
Versus, yeah, there's the paper, sign in for me, please.
Right.
So, my daddy always told me the fish stinks from the head down. So if you are in charge and you're in a position where you can create the vibe, as the kids say, well, life is more fun that way. My wife had a film screen this weekend at a film festival. She's a fantastic director, Jeanette Godoy. And it was about a woman who lost her home in the fire.
Mhm.
The fires
The
in LA.
Palisades. Yeah.
Palisades fire and the
Mhm.
Eaton fires were
Mhm.
simultaneous.
Mhm.
So, and this woman who we know through commercials, she plays Pat's wife in the commercials.
Mm.
So she's become a friend. She wrote this film and needed a director, and my wife said, I'll direct it. And it just screened, and it was so therapeutic and cathartic because the community came out to see. It was at a festival supporting the victims, and it's a year later, but some people don't have their lives back. And we left the screening, and my wife and I started talking. It was like, well, why don't we throw a screening? Because we're on the west side of town, and LA's sprawling. That was way over there, an hour away. I bet we could get 100 people out. Everybody pays a small fee. We'll give it to the people whose GoFundMe's didn't go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And she's like, she doesn't ask me. She goes, okay, when do you want to do it? That's what's great about having a like-minded partner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if we can do something for fun, and I love to put a charity element attached to it, it just makes life exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm so happy to be able to talk with you for an hour plus now. And if somebody is inspired to do something fun, throw a fundraiser, throw a party, put a little extra pizzazz in their daily routine, it just makes things more fun.
Yeah. Helps them and helps others, man. It makes us all feel better for sure.
Every commercial, last thing, every commercial
please.
production, I asked my business partner, can we afford the pizza truck? Because they have this truck come out with wood fire ovens, and two of them, and they make the custom pizzas. She's like, not on this one. No, it's because it's really expensive.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, what about the sushi person, that sushi guy? Like, no, we can't do that one, this one. And then maybe she'll surprise me and give me a little wink, and the pizza truck shows up.
Yeah.
And everybody loves the pizza truck.
Yes.
So I'm always in life, like, if my wife says, hey, you want some people to come over? Maybe we'll throw a little cocktail party with some friends. I'm like, are we getting a pizza truck? Live a little.
Yeah, live a little. Okay, I will put it all in the notes, but I mean, you've got a podcast, your Instagram, you've got a website, True Agent TV, Instagram at that Jordan Brady, which is great. I love the material on there. That's where I saw some of your stuff with
Oh,
Pat.
thank you.
You have your own podcast, Respect the Process, which
Respect the Process.
There it is in the background. Any place else people should find you? Probably your website's the main one.
If people go to jordanbrady.com, it has links to everything. It's like a Bedouin bazaar.
Yeah.
It's got crap everywhere you can buy, and chickens in cages, and you name it.
Jordan, it was great talking to you. Look, I hope you get that. I hope you get that white whale. And if you don't, you've given us so much already, but we'll be pulling for you and looking for that.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, man. Thanks again.
All the best. You bet.
Bye-bye.